My name is Alieu, and I'm head of partnerships for a charity called the Foyer Federation. And what I do is bring together diverse people, organizations together to support young people who can't live at home. My story is of a young man who was born in Sierra Leone, and I came to this country with my young mother who was 18 at the time. I failed primary school, nearly failed secondary school, struggled through college, made it into university, and then somehow made it into the biggest accountancy firm in the world. What that story tells me is, when I haven't got a focus or a goal of what I'm trying to achieve, I'm lost in the wilderness. But at the times when I know what I want, I can be extremely bold, extremely powerful. The core focus of the talk is around young people experiencing mental health issues, but a wider issue on how do we go about not just saying we are going to help you, but how do you work with them to recognize that they have insights, strengths and skills. I want to channel that message to the world to show them that we can do it and they are already doing it. Let's work together.
My name is Alieu Fofanah. It's not Alihu, it's not Alleluia, and I'm not asking you how are you. It's simply Alieu. In 1992, I landed in London to rejoin my mother, who had me at the age of 18 in a country called Sierra Leone in Freetown. She had been doing any types of jobs, from cleaning the floor to cooking late at restaurants or being a carer, all to save up enough money to bring her young son to London. And when I look back now, after all the years I've been here, I ask myself the question, would she have done anything differently if she knew everything I would have gone through being in London? How many of you sometimes when you want to share something personal feel that it could be slightly embarrassing and hold yourself back? I want to see a show of hands. You know why, right? Because you're going to be vulnerable. You're going to put yourself out there. And that's what I'm choosing to do today with you. I want to tell you a personal story. But before I do, I want to ask you all to promise that 1, you won't judge what I'm going to say. That 2, you're going to be present with me as I speak. And that 3, you're going to listen actively. So I want you to say, yes, I promise, at the end of 3. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. I'm going to choose to trust you. My story starts in primary school, that's where I started to taste the bitterness of failure, feeling like a loser, and feeling incapable. I remember there was one occasion where literally, in front of an audience like this, the entire school laughed at me. Weeks after, I could still hear those laughters, and I chose not to come into school for many, many days. And by the end of primary school, when I got my exam results, I saw that I failed every single exam. When I started to apply for different secondary schools, rejection, rejection, rejection. And I still remember the tears coming down as I read each of those rejection letters and felt that I was inadequate. Finally, I actually got into a secondary school because my auntie, being the woman that she is, went to her headmistress and basically forced the matter. So thank you, auntie. But because of what I'd felt in the past, even when I was there and I started to improve and get grades here which were good, I always had the belief that I was incapable. I never had the belief in myself. So then I moved on to college, I moved on to university, and there I started to apply for different jobs. And I always had to think big. I thought I need to work for one of the best. So I started applying. And then the rejections started coming in, fast and furious, over and over again. But I stayed determined. And I remember once I was sitting across the seat in a final stage interview for a company which I really wanted to work with. And the partner asked me the last question as he looked through my CV. And then he looked perplexed. Hold on. How have you made it this far? Everyone else who I've interviewed has A stars and A's. You haven't even got 1. I sat there, my hands literally were trembling. My palms sweating. And I looked at him thinking, oh shit. He's found me out. I'm a fraud. See, the thing about me is, I'm very mission-driven. I'm very goal-orientated. Once I know what I want, then I go after it like never before. As soon as I see that, it's mine. And that's always led me to achieving and pushing forward, regardless of the failures, but regardless of the setbacks and regardless of my past experiences. So what happened? In college, I ended up with all Bs. In university, I ended up with a first class. And then I ended working for one of the largest accountancy firms in the world, qualifying as a chartered accountant. So in my mind, I had made it. I think that deserves a round of applause. I had made it. But I want you all to look to the person next to you and say, hey, the story is not finished yet. Because the story does continue. As I started to move into different teams, I started to feel a sense of inadequacy. I was lost on where I wanted to go next, and I lost my sense of mission, my sense of goal, and what was next. And I arrived in a place where I was in a team where my strengths weren't aligned to my role. Although I still worked really hard, and I tried to remember all those good things I did back then to put in the work today in this team. But without that mission, and without my strengths aligning, I started to recall all the negative thoughts which were in my head. And what happened then? Those negative thoughts started to accumulate. Each one became a mental slash, which never healed and which stayed. As that accumulated, it became days where I didn't want to leave my bed. I literally just want to stay in bed and not go into work. But I remember reading certain quotes and watching TED Talks and thinking, no, you can't give up. You must do it. You can't be weak. You have to be strong. So I continued. I was coming into work until one day, things really fell apart for me. How many of you want to be seen as weak, vulnerable, and not capable? No one, right? That's why nobody even put up their hands. They don't want to show that. And I don't want to be seen as that either. So that's why I chose not to say anything to anyone. I chose to keep it inside. But until that day where I really broke down, I went to the people who I trust the most, my parents. And I remember feeling ashamed as I sat across the table from them, about to tell them how their son felt. I kept on looking down as I spoke to them. Every so often, I'll look up to see if they're going to give me a look of disapproval, a look of, I can't believe he's saying this to us. But that look never came. Instead, they just listened. They held me in that space as you're holding me now. And that gave me the chance to say so many things which I didn't even know was inside. And as I spoke, more things came out. And at the end, they said, be brave. If you want to leave, leave. If you want to stay, stay. But whatever you do, we love you and we'll support you. That felt like such a load, literally off my shoulders. I felt like a new man. But not a new man because I was just me, but a new man because now I felt like I was together with others who held me in that space. I'm the driver in my seat, but I had passengers now who are helping me on that journey. And that's when I realized, as human beings, we shouldn't be judged on our limitations or what we've gone through, because that doesn't define us. That is not our identity. With that new resolve, that new mindset, that started pushing me to helping others who are around me. So when I was at work, I started coaching people. I started coaching young people, and that passion continued to grow. And then one day, I grew up a bit. I grew a beard. I lost my hair. And I started working for a charity called the Foyer Federation, who are focused on helping young people who can't live at home. And one of the reasons why I joined this charity, the reason why my passion shone exactly what they were doing, I thought was the right thing, because they hold that space for young people to say, you have strengths, you have skills, and you have talent, which can provide solutions to your own problems. You have experiences which can spark change and progress. And how do we work with you and to co-create strategies of how to help you to progress? So we can be your co-pilot rather than trying to drive you. And I just felt, what a cause. The issue of mental health has been increasing in our network and for young people and people in general. Did you know that 75% of mental health issues are within a person by the age of 24? Did you know 1 in 6 young people between the ages of 16 to 24 have been diagnosed with mental health issues. And within our network, for young people who are going through certain circumstances which doesn't allow them to live at home, that 1 in 3 of them enter the network and live at a foyer have been diagnosed with a mental health issue. But in thinking about how we support them, we held that space and we worked with them and we said, how would you like support to be? What are your solutions? And they told us this. When talking about mental health, don't speak about it as if it's my identity. Speak about it as if it's my experience, and I have several different experiences that I can draw from to also help me on that journey. Ask me the question, how can I support you? So that way we can think through that together. Now, if you really reflect on what I've just said, that doesn't only apply to young people. It applies to each and every one of us. It applies to our loved ones. It applies to generations above. Because I truly believe that if we're able to hold that space with each other, where somebody can be present, that's where you start to build trust. And when you build trust, that's when you can help to battle a problem that many people fight in their minds by themselves. But you can do it together. Last week was mental health awareness. And that's when I realized that a lot of people have already started to have a mindset shift. And it made me feel good to think, yes, we're moving in the right direction. But what we need to remember is that today still, 9 in 10 people who have had mental health issues say they've been stigmatized or discriminated against because of the experience they had. So the time to act is now, and we need to move faster than ever before, considering where the world is at. Technology is moving fast. We don't know what's going to be happening with jobs. We don't even know what's happening with Brexit. So we need to make sure we stand together. So I want you to remember this one point and this key takeaway. Each of us is not perfect. Each of us have limitations. And each of us have gone through times where we've been stressed, where we've had anxiety attacks, or we've been depressed. And we've come up with our own solutions and our own strategies to cope. And I'd like to invite you all to think about that time and share it with a loved one, maybe with the person next to you or with a colleague. Share it through social media, share it through a letter, or just share it through a conversation, however you feel comfortable. And the reason why I'm asking you to do that, because it's going to show a few things. Firstly, it's going to show somebody that you've been through something, but it's going to show them that you're not weak, you're still capable regardless of the experiences you've had, that all of us go through those experiences. And that's how we start to build the key thing, which is trust. And once trust is built, that's when we can start working together and being each other's co-pilots of fighting an issue which people normally fight by themselves. Remember this African proverb which says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So I want to invite you all here today to join me in going further, faster, together. Thank you.